People in Fulton County have a new facility to share their history, and it's located across from the fairgrounds in Fulton County, north of Wauseon. Scott Lonsdale's with me to tell me a little bit. This is beautiful. You've got some wonderful space here to show off all kinds of history here in Fulton County.
We do. We have a fantastic space. In addition to being a museum, we are a visitor center. So you have a large lobby with visitor information, and then we have a 4,000 square foot museum that really examines U.S. history through the eyes of Fulton County residents and tells the story of how Fulton County contributed to the American story.
And when you first come in, this is where people would come to find out about Fulton County and see some of the history right behind us in a beautiful mural of different people who had a significant part in Fulton County history.
Absolutely, yeah. We have this great mural that we've got here, and around it, you'll notice we've got all these faces. And it's what we call Faces of Fulton County. And we ran as a fundraiser this tile program, and these are put on by the residents of Fulton County as a living memory. So going forward, they're going to be part of the history of Fulton County.
And whenever folks come, they can say, well, there's Uncle George, and they can point to different people in their families who have a part in Fulton County history.
Absolutely, and we've been experiencing that already.
Yeah, I'll bet you have. Got some famous people up here from Fulton County history. And
up in the corner there riding his bicycle is Speed King of the World.
Speed King of the World.
Yeah. Barney Oldfield.
Barney Oldfield, and people may remember him from driving, being a famous race driver. They may not think about him as a bicycle racer, and we're going to talk about that in a little while. Okay. Who else?
We've got Marjorie Whiteman. She was a personal secretary to Eleanor Roosevelt and did some of the legal aid work on the foundations of the United Nations as well as the Declaration of Human Rights.
So what is really nice about the mural is when people first come in, one of the things is they'll say, well, who is that, and who is that? And you can kind of explain and talk about some of the people who had a significant part in history here.
Absolutely. It's a great entryway into discussing history, being with the public, engaging with them, and explaining what history is and the fact that we are all a part of history. We're making it every day.
Scott, you've been in a smaller facility, a home that was a hospital that you kind of had to punch everything together, and now you've got some space. How does the design of this help to show off some of the history that maybe people didn't always see before?
Oh, absolutely. We are lucky to have this be a ground-up design. Our director, John Swearingen Jr., really had this whole idea in his head, and it allowed us to really build an exhibit and then build this fantastic space around that exhibit, as opposed to trying to shimmy exhibits here and there in a small space. We have that space to open up to really showcase all that we have to offer here.
Gives you a chance to breathe and show that. In fact, as you go into the museum that we're going to see in a moment, that even has a special significant piece of Fulton County history.
It does. The entryway is restored. It was saved off of Metamora High School before it was torn down. We've restored it, and now that entryway that residents of Fulton County were going through for many, many years, they can re-enter as they explore the history of the county.
Well, Scott, we moved into the beginning of the museum area, and it's really interesting, all the different ways you're inviting people in as the way to come through, and it looks like you've got little individual areas that focus on different pieces of history.
Yeah, we do. When John designed the exhibits, there's an ancient concept out of Rome called a saeculum, and the basic idea is that every generation or every lifetime repeats itself. So your generation is going to experience something, well, actually, I would say my generation is going to experience something much like yours experienced. And you can really highlight this in my grandparents' generation going through the Great Depression, World War II, my parents' generation going through Vietnam, and then the 70s and the oil embargo, and my generation going through September 11th and then the Great Recession. That was kind of what really formulated our generations as youths. And so that's really what this concept is. And so it's built into the exhibit that the seculum, that history is repeating itself throughout time. And we start here, we talk about the environment. What is Fulton County? What's the land? You can't really discuss history without getting a full appreciation of what humans encountered when they got here to create that history. And from there, we move into the Paleo-Indians and all the way around to the Turnpike and the creation of the Eisenhower Interstate Highway System.
And what impacts all of those had on people here in Northwest Ohio?
Absolutely. From the creation of the mounds of the Mississippians, the Adena, the Hopewell cultures, and the moving in of native peoples, the different tribes to the settlement, the French taking this area all the way through to the settlement of immigrants from Germany in the 1800s, and how this really is people moving through the land and building the land to our purposes.
Now, as the new museum was announced and you were looking at how to fit this, did you find that the people in the community were getting more and more excited, and some of them were saying, I think I've got something you might need, and would you like this and that?
Absolutely. We actually, it's funny you say that, because starting about, I'd say February, I think it was, we were getting constantly, and it's great. We love that the people were bringing in this stuff, and that, I found this in the attic, or we have this fantastic item. But our focus really had this, we had this deadline we were coming up on, and there wasn't much we could really, so we created this huge folder, and all we said was, great, give us as much information, and we're going to file it in this folder, and we'll give you a call after May 5th. So, but yeah, people have been so generous with the items they have, things they've found. And we've also, you can't do this without man hours, and people have been very generous with their time as well. This is volunteer, really volunteer led and run with some professional advisement.
Well, you opened this museum part in May of 2018 this year.
Correct. Yeah. So 2.5 months ago.
Yeah. All right. As we speak here today, and what you've got these exhibits, but what's nice when people offer you more things, and that is you've got this whole big space in here that you could have special exhibits, or you can tweak different different exhibits. You've got different places you can change some of this and showcase some of that too.
Absolutely. We have, the museum itself is 4,000 square feet. We also have a smaller gallery off to the side. And in the center of the museum, as you'll see, it's you're right, there's no space that we can then create special exhibits. And we actually have one currently that's Latinos in Rural America. That is through mid-September. And then coming in at the end of September, we have another special exhibit called Keeping Up with the Joneses. And it is the unique collection of some of the Joneses who lived here in Fulton County. So
okay, so if you were a Jones, you could put something there.
Yeah, so we actually we have a collection that was donated by the family, and I am not a curator, so I don't know what these items are, but I'll be as surprised as everyone else. So you guys should come check that out in September.
Well, that keeps things fresh and moving, and keeps history alive, because really what you do is you breathe new life into something that happened before, and you connect again with something that happened here.
Absolutely, and that's really the key word there, is connect. Our aim is to connect our history to our present and show how it influences our future.
One of the nice things about all this space and everything is this is a cooperative venture. The museum isn't its own thing. It's like the visitor centers here, and coupled with, it's a very unique thing that you were able to do with a number of organizations in order to make this happen.
Yes, this is the first of its kind in all of Ohio. It is a collaboration, this facility. We have an ODOT facility in the back. This building specifically houses the EMS and the emergency management administrator for the county, as well as another county employee. The Visitors Bureau, which is its own nonprofit, occupies this space as well. So this is 4 or 5 different organizations coming together and contributing to one large project and making a go of something unique.
Well, one of the most famous residents from Fulton County when it comes to auto racing has to be Barney Oldfield. And especially here close to Wauseon is a stomping ground for him. Scott, is this not where he was born?
He was born in York Township, not too far from where we're actually standing right now. Okay. He was born in his grandfather's cabin.
All right. And he grew up here in Wauseon?
He did, up until about the age of 14 when the family moved to Toledo. So not that far, still northwest Ohio.
Okay. And what was his family like?
His father actually is a Civil War veteran. Right. And if you see, we do have in the exhibit some of his Civil War history. And the name Berna, which is his given name, he shortened it to Barney, because we all would. And it was named after his dad's buddy from the Army.
Had a way to remember his buddy from the Army, too. Mm-hmm. And that's how he started out in life. And then he moved to Toledo and got involved with bicycling, didn't he?
He did. He became very active in bicycle racing. And I think this story really highlights the character of Barney, that he's a rascal, really. He's one of these people.
He's been known to be that way.
Yeah, he's working at a hotel, and he's basically being paid to ride a guy's bike around and park it for him. Instead of parking it, he takes it out for joyrides, as some people are wont to do. Mm-hmm. And really instills this need for speed and this love for racing into him. And I think that story really highlights the rest of his life, both the love of racing, the love of speed, and also this kind of I'm going to make my own rules in life way of living.
So Barney graduates from bicycles and goes to kind of a motorized bicycle. And
he does.
Yeah.
And it's actually through his friend Tom, who he meets while racing. They were actually competitors, and then became good buddies and actually raced on tandem bicycles at first. And Tom gets involved with this guy from Detroit named Henry Ford. And they're building a race car called the 999. Mm-hmm. And Henry's looking for someone to race it for him. And Henry was originally racing it himself. And Tom suggested that, hey, my old friend Barney would be really good for this. And up in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, on a track, Barney drives the 999 for the first time. And him and Henry go down in history basically from that event. Henry Ford soon after creates the Ford Motor Company, and part of the success he attributes to Barney Oldfield in the name recognition from his kind of speed demon racing.
Yes, because when you won a race, that put you to the top of the heap, because automobiles were just evolving then, and some of the names were just coming about, and people were looking for the right brand that was going to get them down the road, and racing was really one of the popular ways to show off your vehicles, and Ford certainly was able to make a good name for himself by having Barney win him some races and elevate that up. I think he won a race against Alex Winton, who was a builder in Cleveland, and was kind of the fast car at the time. The Bullet was a popular car. So by winning that race, everybody went, wow, where'd this guy come from? We don't know anything about that. And it really elevated the status of Ford, and the rest, as we say, is history. Ford had to take it from there, but he designed the cars that people wanted then.
And this is also a time when the Industrial Revolution is really at its very height. New technologies are coming out. This is when you've got the great liner companies in England racing for the speed record across the Atlantic. Very much there is this concept of speed and look what we can do as humans and look what we've been able to accomplish. And so any win is a headline. This is a new vehicle. We don't yet have the mass-produced everyman vehicle, the Model T. So it's new and unique and headline-catching.
I remember as a boy going to the Henry Ford Museum and looking at the old vehicles there, and I fell in love with the 999. I'm going, that is so cool. And Barney Oldfield running that and taking the charge out of that generation and going forward. And he set so many records. He set a lot of speed records.
Yeah, he did. The first one, and I think this is the coolest one, he was the first man in America to go 60 miles per hour. And the newspapers were talking about, oh my goodness, he's gonna die. Like the human body cannot endure this. So that's really, really great. Later on at Daytona Beach, he set the land speed record, and he was also the first man to go more than 100 miles per hour at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And now this is actually the one race where it was before it was the Brickyard. Because of the crashes and all the dangers of that race, they actually shut down and relayed the track with brick, and it became what it's known today as the Brickyard.
He went on to race other vehicles. What I liked about the 999, it doesn't have the steering wheel like we're used to. It had handles on the side, and you moved it back and forth like that. I'm going, how did he keep control of that? But Barney not only did he have good cars to race with, but he was a good driver. He could take different vehicles that maybe weren't the best in the field, and he'd still win.
He had this ability to just push it. There's an inner drive. There has to be to really be the next big thing, to be the big thing and continue being the big thing. You don't go from being the man who sets the 60 mile an hour to being the land speed record if you don't have that internal drive to stay on top.
He was also probably the first celebrity, or he became certainly a huge celebrity across the country. His name everybody knew, and so he commanded quite a bit just to go to a personal appearance and that, but everybody knew who Barney Oldfield was.
Yeah, they did, to the point where he had his own Broadway musical.
That's right.
He was in a Broadway musical, and this is my favorite part. He actually invented a treadmill so that his vehicle could be on stage, and he made special appearances in this show. It ran for one season on Broadway, but it grabbed the headlines. This guy is he's the new Kim. That era's Kim Kardashian. Always knew how to stay in the news.
He knew how to do that, regardless of whether it was good news or bad news.
Absolutely, much like today's celebrities.
Yeah, there you go. What I kind of like is that towards the end of his career, since we're in a largely rural community, he even got a tractor to go 64 miles an hour. He took an Almost Chalmers tractor in Dallas at 64 miles an hour. So he was even getting tractors to go fast.
Yeah, he was not afraid of pushing the limits on whatever it was. He really, in his spare time, actually enjoyed racing trains. He barnstormed racing airplanes. He's this guy who just has this insatiable need for speed, and I would say a need for the spotlight as well.
Because even after he wasn't racing, he was doing movies.
He goes to Hollywood, and he's in a bunch of movies. And one of them is about his Golden Submarine, which is actually having been on the racing circuit for so long, he had seen a bunch of his friends, a bunch of guys who raced with him, a bunch of his friends die. And he actually became an advocate for safer racing. And one of the things he tried doing was building an enclosed race car. And that's what this Golden Submarine is. And they made a movie out of it. And it's the most ridiculous egg-shaped car today, but it's moving forward and it shows development into all the safety that NASCAR includes today. It's still an extremely dangerous sport, but safety is one of the top concerns of NASCAR racers.
The name Barney Oldfield still is highly thought of in this area. I know there was Barney Oldfield days in this area for many years, and people still remember him as coming from this area, so having him in the museum is a good spot too.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We also have this special. It's special. It's actually from a guy in Napoleon who's donated to us for a limited exhibition. Okay. It goes back to him, of course, so it's on loan. And it's this license plate. Tomorrow, it will be 110 years since that license plate appeared in its first race up in St. Paul.
Well, this is the 140th anniversary of his birth this year in June. So yeah, we celebrate Barney Oldfield, and one of the things that you'll see here at the new Fulton County Historical Society Museum. One of the very contemporary things that is happening with this museum is that it's interactive, and people get an interactive experience, and it comes from different panels here, and Scott, you're going to have to explain a little bit more for me.
Yeah, well, we actually have interactives placed throughout the museum, but our big showcase, our showpiece interactive, is a digital interactive, and it's accessible through any smartphone, any smartphone, and it's based off this seculum, that each seculum is a season in our lives, or in history, I should say, and what you do is, based upon your birth year, you are assigned a resident from the county, and as you go through the exhibit, you're going to hear the life experiences of this person and how it relates to that moment in the history of our time of Fulton County.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you kind of relive the history while you're walking through with the help of someone from your generation.
Yeah, yep, someone from the past who somehow relates to your generation. Absolutely.
Well, Scott, we've seen a lot of the exhibits, and we've talked about some of them. There's a lot more to see here that we can't possibly cover. One of the things I wanted to mention, that aside from the exhibits, you also have a research area that people can do some research in.
Yeah, we do. It's the Speece Research Center, and it's open Monday through Friday, through 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., or by appointment. If you can't make it, we can make an arrangement for you with enough notice, and you can research county history. You can begin to research your genealogy, and really get into some of what documents we have here.
Okay. And you also have a shop where people can maybe buy some souvenirs to take with them, and so I'm sure a lot of people will enjoy the experience of coming here and seeing the visitor center and seeing what you have to offer here in this wonderful new museum. What hours are you open, Scott?
We are open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Sunday from noon to 4.
All right. And there's an admission charge to come in?
There is. It's $8 for adults, $7 for seniors, $3 for children, and 6 and under are free.
We certainly would encourage anyone to come out and enjoy the history of Fulton County in their new museum across from the fairgrounds north of Wauseon.